They're called Minissimo Forte, and Forte has a reason. They're very powerful, they're a very small loudspeaker, they have a very low distortion, and can go quite deep in the bass region, what you don't expect at the size of the speaker.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm a bass head, so it's working for me.
Well, that's why I like this. But it does other things than bass also very, very well.
Yeah.
So the cabinet is made out of one solid piece, so it's machined from one big block.
Okay.
Inside there's the latest of the latest in dispersion technology. It's a new kind of thing that one of our master engineers has developed. It diverts the air molecules in such directions that there are no remaining resonances whatsoever, but the liveliness of the loudspeaker still remains.
Yeah.
Because if you have absorbent material, it sucks in the sound, and it starts to sound overly damped.
Yeah.
This has no absorbent material inside, it only spreads it in all directions.
Okay.
Because of that, also if you play very loud, you don't feel anything, it's totally quiet. And that's quite unique. So this is the first in the world to employ this new technique.
Excellent. And they're semi-active?
They are semi-active, and we're personally not big fans of active loudspeakers because with DSP, because they correct things that are in reality dynamic.
Sure.
That means if you have a resonance, if you measure it as an engineer, you'll find, let's say, a resonance at 600 hertz. In reality, if you play louder, the resonance shifts. The DSP doesn't know that, so the computer corrects something like it's always the same.
Right.
And because with music, it's dynamic, it changes all the time you need a different situation. So that's why we have this new material absorbing perfectly or dispersing the sound pressure inside in all equal directions.
Yes.
And at the same time, or the passive active, sorry, I lost my story.
It's giving the best of both worlds. Yeah.
The passive active means we still have a normal passive filter.
Okay.
The filter is made with silver gold, really silver gold capacitors. They are the highest quality you can get worldwide. Apart from that, it's bling bling.
Yeah.
But they are black, so they don't look as flashy as I'm explaining right now. However, it's a passive filter. So normally the crossover filter is coupled directly to the driver. Because the filter reacts to the driver too, and the resonance in the room, it will be influenced. And you don't get the correct crossover point. So if you play louder, the crossover point of any loudspeaker, which is passive, will shift. We cut it, and in between we do what we call a buffer amplifier. A buffer amplifier is just like an isolator. It isolates the one part from the other. So now the drivers are directly connected to the output of a buffer amplifier, controlling them perfectly.
Yeah.
And I will give you an example, which is then people start understanding this a little bit better. Let's say you have a timpani. People have seen that in big orchestras, and can also be a drum. You know, a kick drum or something like that, bass drum, you know, you step on it and you see that big movement. You get that big thing hammering on it. In a classical orchestra, you have a timpani, and they hammer on it, and then sometimes they damp it with the elbow. They stop it immediately.
Right.
With a normal passive loudspeaker, when it goes forward, it has to come backwards. It oscillates until it stands still. I sometimes compare a passive loudspeaker with a car without shock absorbers, or shocks, as they say in America.
Yeah.
And then, you know, they start dancing on the road, and you can dance off the road.
And you've got neck damage, and then it's just going all downhill from
Yeah,
there.
it's only going downhill. In this case, the start-stop time is about 10 times faster than with a normal passive loudspeaker. Of course, it comes at extra cost because you need 2 extra amplifiers.
Yeah.
But it's perfect. Your distortion is extremely low and you have full control of the loudspeaker. That's why it sounds like a big loudspeaker.
Yeah.
And a lot of people try that because they didn't really know what makes a big loudspeaker sound big and a small speaker sound small.
Right.
And it has to do with the control. So with this passive active system, it's our invention. We're quite surprised that nobody else came up with the idea before, or at least didn't realize it. When our engineers finished the whole project, we found a couple of other interesting things. Most loudspeakers are 8 ohm or 4 ohm. In the old days, you also had 16 ohm, because that was easier to drive for a tube amplifier. At 16 ohm, the current is half that of 8 ohm. Distortion of an amplifier always, if it's digital or tube or transistor, it's always related to the current. More current is more distortion. Also for the cables. So with this system, you need less expensive cable. You get the best out of any amplifier and the best out of any cable.
Yeah.
Because of the lower currents.
It's actually doing everything for itself. Wow.
So that was, and we have a very nice constant impedance of 16 ohm over the whole range, because yeah, that's a more technical thing, but a lot of passive loudspeaker have dips, and that's why you sometimes need a very expensive amplifier to get the best sound of certain loudspeakers.
Right.
They say, yeah, this loudspeaker is good, but only if you use a top of notch amplifier. With this case, a simple amplifier will do. You still hear the differences, but they are not under stress.
Sure, yeah.
So their life has become easy.
Yeah.
And you can drive this perfectly with a, I would say 20, 30 watt amplifier. We recommend still 50, but in generally speaking, in a house, 20 watts would be already enough to fill the whole room with great sound.
Really efficient.
Yeah.
This is the solar red finish.
Yep.
You've got a few other finishes that you offer, right?
Yes, we do. We have champagne finish, we have white, we have matte black, which also is quite interesting.
That would be sleek.
Yeah, it is. It's very modern.
Yeah.
And a lot of people like that.
Yeah,
so
excellent.
Delivery time doesn't change, so all the color options that we have, they are available.
And retail value in pounds?
Retail value, we're talking about £21,000 in UK. Yes.
Very good.
25,000 euros.
Excellent. Yes. And it'll handle anything you need. Because what I do love about the speaker is the fact that it is so tight and controlled. It can handle any type of music that I'm pumping through it.
That's correct.
Anything. Like my rock, my jazz, even my classical. Still give me those like little nuances, you know? Yeah.
Well, that's what it does. And the reason is, because it's very equally balanced, it also has a non-ringing filter. That's maybe too technical to explain, but if you have a pulse, a normal loudspeaker will resonate a little bit until it stops. It's similar to what I explained about the bass. That happens everywhere. We have a non-ringing filter. That means a low Q filter.
Yeah.
Because of that, it's a very natural sound. And if you have brass sounds, brass can really, it's like tearing paper. And you really get that sound out of this speaker. And not many speakers do that. That's because of the filter. The other thing, because it's 16 ohms, we were able to leave out the inductors. Inductors are the bad thing of crossover filters. So we have twice as many capacitors, but don't need inductors anymore, which again lowers the distortion. And the distortion in the mid-range is between 0.15% and 0.3%. Now that's uniquely low for just any speaker in the world.
That's why I feel like I want to keep cranking it up and like partying with it.
Yeah.
There's no distortion to it.
Yeah, it doesn't break down. It's very sturdy.
How long did this take you to develop?
This took 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah, it's not that long. It's quite standard for us, 2 years, because you have to find all the, you know, in the beginning everybody's very enthusiastic until you find some problems. You have to work on that until you solve the next problem.
Absolutely.
But it's now a recipe which is so successful that we are going to implement it in all our loudspeakers. So there will be mid next year we'll have a bigger model of this, and then a certain model before the end of the year. One other thing I didn't have to mention, other invention of our company. So this crystal cable has a balanced filter. It's the first in the world to have also a balanced filter. That means that any problems with grounding are gone. You don't have problem with the earth, with the, and it's still very safe.
Yeah.
So you can ground it, you can ground the AC, has to be grounded, but it doesn't interfere with the audio. And that's really a big benefit.
That is, I always say if you can get away with the less grounding, things actually sound better, so.
Always. Because your signal to noise gets bigger, so the background gets quieter, so you hear the fine details, and your mind then knows exactly what's happening.
Yeah, same with analog.
Yeah.
All coincides.
Same with analog, yeah.
Okay. The brand new Minissimo Forte from Crystal. Edwin, thank you so much.
Hey, thank you so much.
Appreciate you.
And thank you for the good questions.
Show.